Hello friends, in unit 1 up till now we have had a discussion on services. We talked about the service industries, different types of them. We talked about the global trends. We talked about India also, and we talked about how and why the service sector has seen such a phenomenal growth in the last few decades. And we've talked about classification of services. We talked about the comparison between goods and services, and this was a very important lecture. And then we also talked about those services which are high in credence qualities, which you cannot simply understand, which you simply cannot assess in terms of their quality, and because of which you have to have faith in what the service provider is claiming. Right? We talked about the experience quality services, wherein you can make an assessment only after experiencing. And when we talked about goods, we understood that they are high in such qualities, wherein the goods can be assessed, their quality can be understood and can be compared also before even trying them, before even purchasing and consuming them. So we discussed this continuum. We talked about the service mix categories in the last session, and we understood that generally we do not buy pure products or pure goods or pure services, but generally what we buy is a mix of goods as well as services, right? And we talked about these various examples as well. Now today is the time for us to discuss the various characteristics of services which are peculiar to services. So we are discussing those characteristics which make services unique, which make services different from goods. Intangibility is the first characteristic, which is very important. Please understand, I hope you recall our discussion on intangibility in the earlier lectures also, wherein we talked about the difference between goods and services. We talked about intangibility. Now what do we mean by intangibility? Intangible is the opposite of tangible, and tangible means something that you can touch, something that you can smell, something that you can see, hear, listen. So those are examples of tangible items. For example, the pen that you are holding in your hand right now, it's a tangible item. You can see it, touch it, you can feel it. On the other hand, the thought that you are having right now in your head, it is an intangible thing. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you cannot wait that okay, मैं अभी जो सोच रहा हूँ उसका weight है diagram. You can't do that. So this is the difference between tangibility and intangibility. When we talk about bravery, this is an example of some intangible thing. Can you weigh bravery? Can you touch it? Or can you share it with others? तुम बहुत डरपोक हो, मेरे से थोड़ी बहादुरी ले लो. Not possible for you. So these are intangible items. Why am I giving you these examples? Just to make you understand the difference between a tangible and intangible item better, right? What happens with the services? They are intangible. You can't see them. You can experience them, of course. Like this guy, this particular child who is having some procedure being performed on his teeth. Now, can you see the service? He can't. Can you hear it? Can he smell it? Can he share it with others? Okay, he can't. Can he taste it? He can't. All he can do is he can experience it. So this is an example of service. So services are basically intangible, and since they are intangible, you simply cannot predict the quality before you have experienced them yourself. For example, when you go to a bank, or let's say when you are going to a shop, you have planned to purchase a pen. Before purchasing the pen, what you can do is you can have a look at different brands of pen, and then you can do a comparison. You can probably even write something using those pens just to compare how smoothly the different pens function. And then based on that particular experience, you can decide which particular pen to purchase. But is this possible for this guy who is getting a dental care procedure going on? It's just not possible. Can he go to the dentist and tell the dentist कि सर थोड़ा मुझे सैंपल करके बताइए कि आप दांत कैसे तोड़ते हैं जिस दांत में कीड़ा लगा हो? Not possible, right? So services are intangible, and this makes it very, very difficult for this child to forecast the quality of this procedure before actually himself experiencing it. Until unless he is himself experiencing the procedure being performed on himself, he would not be able to make out what is the quality of the procedure. Does it hurt or does it not hurt? Does it give you a permanent cure, or does it only cure your disease for a few months? So he'll have to experience the service to be able to make out what is the quality of the service. Now please also understand that there are of course exceptions. Now when you go and join a coaching class, you may ask for a demo class right in the beginning before even you pay the fees, because this demo class will give you a good idea as to how the actual classes are going to follow, right? So there are certain services wherein you may be able to experience the services without actually having to consume them. So when you go to college, you can sit for maybe demo classes 2 to 3 days, and then you will be able to assess what will be the quality of educational service which will be delivered to me once I join the college, and then based on that you might decide to join the college or not to join the college. So I'm not saying that all the services 100% of instances they would be intangible, but by and large generally aam taur pe they are intangible, right? And we had discussed this earlier also. Please also understand that though I have mentioned it here that quality of service can't be predicted and you'll have to experience it to be able to assess the quality of the service, but then there are some services for which you cannot make the assessment even after having experienced them, and I have talked about these types of services. They are known as services high in credence qualities. Credence means भरोसा करना पड़ेगा आपको कि सर्विस ठीक हुई है, या आपको भरोसा होगा कि सर्विस ठीक नहीं हुई है, because even after experiencing the service you do not know. Example was the stomach surgery that has been performed on me, for example. I do not know, even after having undergone the procedure, I do not know what was the quality of service which was provided to me. Did the doctor do the right thing when he was operating on my stomach? I do not know. So I'll have to have faith on what the service provider, the doctor, is claiming कि आपकी सर सर्जरी बहुत अच्छी हुई है. I'll have to have trust on him because my experience is also not telling me anything, right? When I go and get my bike repaired, I do not know. The service provider might tell me कि सर इसमें तो बहुत fault था, and he might charge me rupees 3,000. I do not know. On the other hand, some other service provider might charge me 200 rupees. He might say कि okay sir, there was just a little bit of outside material got stuck in the carburetor because of which there was problem with your bike, and see, he'll charge me just rupees 200. But I do not have any means to understand. Even after getting my bike serviced, I do not know, I do not have any means to understand what was the quality of the service. So I might have to wait for another 6 months or 1 year to be able to assess with certainty the quality of service. So if my bike does not malfunction 6 months from the day of service, then I can probably say that the service quality was good. If I do not have any problem with my stomach after getting the surgery for 2 years, 3 years, then I can probably say that okay, the service quality was good. So there are these kind of services also wherein even after experiencing you cannot make out. So this is the level of intangibility with services. Now have a look at another aspect of services, inseparability. You cannot separate production and consumption. Like have a look here. Can this lady say that okay, I'm going to get married and I'm also doing my MBA. My teachers don't allow me to miss classes. So madam, what you do is, since I'm going to get married, what I'll do is I'll keep my hair here in the morning and I go and join the classes, and by the time I return at 2 o'clock, please get my hairstyling done. Can you do it this way? You cannot. The production and the consumption will have to take place simultaneously, which means the producer, which is the service provider, and the consumer, the customer, which is consuming the service, they will have to be present simultaneously. I'll give an example. Taking classes through Google Meet. Do you think they are separable or inseparable? Absolutely inseparable. If the teacher is not there, what will you do? Who is going to teach you? Who is going to teach the students? So the teacher has to be there. And what if the students are not there, which many times happens in such cases? Now who is the teacher teaching? Right? So the teacher as well as the student, the producer as well as the customer have to be present simultaneously for the service to be produced and to be consumed. Right? So this is an example of inseparability. However, there are some services where inseparability may not apply, which means I can post my lectures on YouTube according to my own convenience, and then you can have a look at those videos according to your own convenience. We don't have to be present at the same place or at the same time together simultaneously, right? So this is an example of those services which now have become separable because we have the technology to separate the production and consumption of service, right? So as I gave you an example earlier also, if you want to consume entertainment services, what will I do, or what will Kapil Sharma do? He'll record the episode in the month of May and then telecast it for you in the month of July, and there is absolutely no need for Kapil Sharma and you to be present at the same place at the same time. So therein we do have access to technology, and that's why we do not need the producer and the customer to be available simultaneously. Then let's talk about perishability. Many of these services cannot be stored. Perishable means kharab ho jate. They do not have a shelf life. What we mean by this? Now have a look at these roadways buses. You know that the passenger traffic is generally higher during the daytime, and it is lower, the passenger footfall is much lower in the night. But is this possible for these bus services to tell the passenger, okay sir, you want to travel in the afternoon? That is perfectly fine. What we'll do is, we'll run the bus in evening and night, and then you can consume the bus service in the afternoon. Possible? Not possible. So what will have to be done? You cannot store the services. You will have to produce the service as and when it is required by the customer. And that is why you see in barber shops, during the daytime, maybe around 2 or 3, when it's very hot outside, they simply do not have any client. And what do? They cannot store their services for the client who might come in the evening. So what will they do? They will rest. They will probably down the shutters and they will go for rest. Why? Because they can understand that you cannot store the services. So the services cannot be stored for future use. So they have to be produced whenever the customer is there, right? Now let's talk about variability, and we have discussed this earlier also. Variability, there is a lot of variation in the quality of service, right? Have a look at these two pictures. There's a reason why I put these two pictures. Now if you look at these two pictures, here the clients, both these are students and they're getting the same service, education service, but the experience is very, very different. Here this particular client is being greeted by this teacher, and she's all smiles because probably she's enjoying the company of a teacher and she's enjoying the teaching education services being delivered to her. On the other hand, this particular student is getting a whack on her head because the teacher may be a very strict one. So the experience of the same service is very different from these two customers, right? So this happens in case of services. The service quality is highly variable, and there are 3 reasons for this variation across different service personnel in the same organization. So you are going to the same barber shop, but there are 2 different barbers. On one occasion, barber number 1 was the one who gave you a haircut, and this was a wonderful haircut. And so you returned, and 2 months down the line when you return, The barber who is giving you a haircut is a different one, and the quality of service is again also a different one. He might give you an even better haircut, or he might be giving you a haircut which you would probably not be satisfied with. So there's a lot of variation because of different service personnel in the same organization across different occasions, even for the same personnel. Now this teacher today is very happy and she is enjoying delivering the service to the client, but what if tomorrow when she comes to the school and she has had a argument with her husband, because of which she is not in a good frame of mind, and she whacks the child. So for this child, on the two occasions, the service experience was very, very different. And the reason here was the same service personnel, the same teacher was there, but the teacher was having two different emotional states. First day, she was very, very happy. The second day, she was a little tense because of the argument and she was not able to concentrate, and because of which the quality of service was different on the two occasions. Then again, now it's also very important to understand that the co-customers on different occasions can also lead to a variation in quality. Now I am giving you an example. Suppose you go to a cinema hall, or let's say suppose you go to a restaurant to enjoy a meal along with your friends because the friend is having a birthday, and the person who is sitting adjacent to where you have sat along with your friends, he's not disturbing you at all. So you would enjoy that time spent in the restaurant. But on the next occasion when you visit the restaurant, the person who was sitting on this table adjacent to you, he started smoking. Don't you think just because he smokes, and I'm assuming that you don't smoke and you are not very comfortable with somebody smoking in your vicinity, so what will happen? Your experience of the service that you get in the restaurant would suffer. And you would say that this time the party was not good. Yeah, the co-customer who was sitting in the adjacent table, on the adjacent chair, he started smoking and we were not able to enjoy our food. We had to leave midway. So this might also happen because of the co-customers also. The service quality might vary. So these are the four important unique characteristics of services which you have to keep in your mind. Please understand that the forthcoming lectures will be focused on how to deal with these characteristics as a marketer and what are the implications of these characteristics for a marketer. Thank you very much for your time.